Hello and welcome everyone to this lesson, this presentation, which is about the subjunctive. Let me share my screen and get started. So, the subjunctive. A very common question I get is, do we use the subjunctive in spoken English? Well, first of all, there are two types of subjunctive, present subjunctive and past subjunctive. When it comes to present subjunctive, we very rarely use it in spoken English, especially in British English. When it comes to the past subjunctive, we do use it, but only in a few cases. So before we look at the different cases where we do use it or don't use it, let's have a brief look at how we formulate the subjunctive, the formulation. Now, the subjunctive is a form, it's not a tense, and it is used after certain verbs and expressions, and that's why it's called the subjunctive mood. Now, I'm not going to use the word mood throughout this presentation, we'll just call it the subjunctive. Formulation is actually very easy for both types. The present subjunctive has the same form as the base verb, which is the infinitive without to, do. And the past subjunctive has the same form as the past simple, so did. There's a little note here, important note, that as you know, the verb be has two past simple forms. Was for I, he, she, and it, and were for you, we, and they. But the past subjunctive has only one form, and that is were. So that's about the formulation. Now, let's have a look at the expressions that require the present subjunctive. There are two categories. The first one is expressions of importance. For example, saying like it is important, essential, vital, crucial, necessary, or of vital importance. When you start your sentence with expressions like this, we need to use the present subjunctive form. And the situation that we are describing can be in the present or in the past. That's why it's not a tense, it's a form. And in either case, we must use the present subjunctive. So, for example, it is or it was essential that the president be transparent, not is, right? So after the expression of importance, essential, be. Right, the present subjunctive. That's the first category. And the second is after certain verbs, we must also use the present subjunctive. And the most common and important verbs to remember are suggest, recommend, propose, insist, demand, ask, command, and order. For example, the opposition leader demands or demand, did, remember, present or past, makes no difference. The opposition leader demands or demanded that she clarify her position. So clarify is the base verb here, not the present simple form, right? Now, as you can see, these are very formal sentences and therefore only appropriate in formal situations. So, do we use the present subjunctive in informal English? Well, in British English, not really. In American English, you may occasionally hear the present subjunctive in an informal conversation, but even there, it's very rare. So how do we avoid it in conversation? There are three ways to avoid this structure. With the expressions of importance, so our first category, we use a different structure, which is for someone to do, so using the infinitive. So instead of saying something like, it is important that she be honest with you, which sounds very formal and a bit strange, we would say it is important for her to be honest with you. Right? So we're using for someone to do something. That's with the expressions of importance. Now, with the verbs that we saw, the second category, we use the modal verb should. So instead of saying, I hope you insisted that she be honest with you, we say, I hope you insisted that she should be honest with you. And that sounds a lot more natural. And we can also drop that because it's informal. I hope you insisted she should be honest with you. And your third option to avoid the present subjunctive is just to completely ignore that the form even exists and use present or past simple tenses. Of course, this would be grammatically wrong, but it is acceptable in spoken English. So instead of the correct sentence, it is vital that she be honest with you, we just say it's vital she's honest with you. Or with the past, I insisted, or I hope you insisted that she be honest with you. I hope you insisted she was honest with you. So grammatically wrong, remember that, but in spoken English, it has become an acceptable mistake. So that's about, no, I have a little note here. If the verb is negative, if the subjunctive verb is negative, the present subjunctive form sounds strange. So it's even avoided in formal English, usually in two ways, either by adding should to avoid the subjunctive or by changing the verb to a positive verb. For example, looking at the sentence, it is or was crucial that the president not withhold any information. So here the verb is negative, not withhold, sounds very awkward actually. We usually change with should. So for example, it is or was crucial that the president should not withhold any information, or we find an alternative, a positive verb that makes sense here. For example, it is or was crucial that the president share all available information. So that's all about the present subjunctive. Let's look at the past subjunctive. What are the expressions that require the past subjunctive? There are 5 common ones that I have listed for you here. It is time, I would rather, he looks, behaves, or sounds as if or as though, I wish, and if only. For example, we would say, it is time he started, past subjunctive. It is time he started saving up for a car. Or, if only I were 10 years younger. Notice that although the form looks like the past simple, this is not a past simple tense. It is the past subjunctive for a present situation. A little confusing, but that's how it is. Okay. Also, we use the past subjunctive in the if clause of conditional to sentences, as you very well know. For example, if he started saving up today, excuse me, he would be able to buy a car next year. Or I would apply for this job if I were 10 years younger. So, can we avoid the past subjunctive in informal spoken English? Not always. With some expressions, it is possible. With others, it isn't. So, from the list that I shared with you, the first 2 expressions, for those we can find an alternative. So for the expression, it is time he started saving up for a car, we can use the for someone to do something structure. So we can also say, and it's more natural, it is time for him to start saving up for a car. Also with I would rather you did not do something, in this case, I would rather you did not call me by that name, we can use the verb prefer, because with prefer, we can use the infinitive. I would prefer you not to call me by that name. So these 2 have alternatives. The others don't. So let's have a look at what the others were. The first one was he looks, behaves, or sounds as if or as though. Now, when we use the past subjunctive after these expressions, we have an unreal situation. So if we say he behaves as if he owned this place, we know he doesn't. It's hypothetical, it's unreal, and we are a little annoyed at his behavior. He behaves as if he owned this place. If we use the normal tense, the present simple tense, then we have a probable situation. We have changed the context here. If I say, he behaves as though he owns this place, maybe he does. So it's completely now different. Therefore, if your idea is the first one, the unreal situation, hypothetical, you're a little annoyed, you must use the past subjunctive. So that's that one. And then the other three situations, two expressions and one structure, with I wish, if only, and the second conditional, you have no alternative. You must use the past subjunctive. So it's I wish I were 10 years younger. If only she knew how to sing. If he had a choice, he would live elsewhere. Now, again, a little note here that some native speakers may use was with I, he, she, and it instead of were, but good native speakers generally use were. So I'd recommend you stick to were for all pronouns. So you might hear, if only I was 10 years younger, but don't use that. Say, if only I were 10 years younger. One final note, and that is, if the action following I wish and if only, those two phrases, I wish and if only, took place in the past and you want to express your regret, you must use the past perfect tense. So you would say something like, I wish I had started saving up last year, or if only I had started saving up last year. So just to sum up and answer the question again, do we use the subjunctive in spoken English? So we have two cases. Present subjunctive, not really. You can always avoid it when you speak. However, it is important that you're aware of this structure so that you're not confused when you occasionally see or hear it in formal situations. With the past subjunctive, is different. There are situations where you cannot avoid it, you must use it, and we looked at 4 important cases. That was after the expressions as if, as though, I wish, if only, and in the if clause of conditional to sentences. What is important here is to remember that this is the past subjunctive form, mood. It is not the past simple tense. It doesn't have anything to do with the past. It's usually a present or future situation so that you don't get confused. Right, that's the end of the presentation. I hope it has helped you to review the subjunctive mood in English and also become aware of when you can use it, when you must use it, and when you can avoid it. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. For more on this topic, click here. Remember to also check out my complete online course and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching and happy studies!